solidarity, a community experience. Solidarnosc, doesn't that word ring a bell? In this virtual tour, we will look at how, by sharing common values, the majority of Polish society worked to build a society based on solidarity while fighting oppression. What kind of oppression are we talking about? It is the oppression suffered by a population in the face of a system of real socialism that governed Poland at the time. Under this regime, all social, economic and political life was regulated and controlled by the Communist Party, and the economic situation was disastrous. As we shall see, in order to escape from this unbearable and hostile situation, the Polish people worked together to create a pluralist society. From Poland, hundreds of tons of meat were sent to the Soviet Union, while in the country endless queues formed outside food shops. The patience of the population is wearing thin. They took to the streets with banners like this one, and as the food crisis was to be a recurring problem in the 1980s, posters like these also appeared, but were banned by the censors. Strikes broke out all over the country, mainly because of rising prices, while wages were far from adequate. In Gdansk, this already tense situation is compounded by the dismissal of Anna Valentinovich, a crane operator at the shipyard who is also a very active and respected trade unionist. The reaction of the working class population is immediate. There's a strike at the Lenin shipyards in Gdansk. Their demands are clear. They want Valentinovich reinstated, the right to form independent trade unions, and an end to political repression. And the people behind the gates of the shipyards take it in turns to support, feed and encourage the strikers. Together, the population is demanding change. Together, people are peacefully resisting, and religion plays an important role in this struggle. Throughout the industrial district, you can see holy pictures and barriers covered in flowers, like this one with the photo of Pope John Paul II. This Polish pope has made several pilgrimages to his native land, firstly to give a breath of hope in 1979, then twice in the 80s, and each time he has had crowds flocking around him to listen to his unifying and motivating message for the whole of Polish society. Let's go back to the events of August 1980. There is a huge mobilization. The strikers are supported as much by the church as by all sections of the Polish population. This strong support certainly helps the drafting of the 21 demands that we see here posted at the entrance to the shipyards and which will be presented to the government. These 21 demands are considered by UNESCO to be among the most important documents of the 20th century. According to the organization, they bear witness to a decisive turning point in world history that changed not only Poland, Europe, and the world at the time, but also the future. Let's now join the meeting room of the Shipyard Administration Building, where several days of negotiations take place between the inter-factory trade unions and the authorities before the Gdansk agreements are signed on the 31st of August 1980. These recognized the right of workers to form independent trade unions, limited censorship, increased wages, and the release of political prisoners. After the signing of the agreements, there is a triumphal parade with Lech Walesa in the center. Lech Walesa, who joined Anna Valentinovich at the start of the strikes and went on to lead the Solidarnosc movement. These agreements also mark the official birth of the Solidarnosc trade union, which will have 10 million members, that is 1/3 of the Polish population. Solidarnosc is a force for solidarity and national unity, supported by a population from all walks of life but united, with which the communist government will have to negotiate. Its aim is to rebuild the Polish state based on values such as human rights, national tradition, social justice, and Christian values. But on the 13th of December 1981, in a reversal of fortunes, the government, seeing the extent of the movement, decided to put an end to it by declaring a state of war and proclaiming martial law. All powers are handed over to the military. All vital activities come under state control. Any troublemaker is imprisoned. Schools and universities are closed and leisure activities are restricted. Work 6 days a week and 7 if the situation requires it. Gatherings are banned. Firearms are confiscated. Borders and airspace are closed. Strict control of the media, leading to the emigration of hundreds of thousands of Poles to the West. Ironically, this building still bears the words, "Welcome to Poland," to a country where the people are demonstrating for their rights against a government represented by the militia and seeking to muzzle them. Where tanks invade towns, where people are constantly under surveillance, where the state has taken control and threatens unarmed citizens. Unarmed, but resisting against violence at all costs. In front of the Gdansk shipyards, tanks are parked and women place flowers in the opening of their cannons to illustrate the non-violence of the people's actions. A united population that continues to resist and demonstrate. A population that continues to hold out against the oppression. Here you can see the glasses of the dictator Jaruzelski with prison bars. Prints are made secretly by members of Solidarnosc who have gone underground, and leaflets such as these circulate in homes and on the streets. They are vehicles of hope that will help maintain the spirit of resistance. Any medium is used, as in this case cloth. Inter-university student opposition movement. And, accompanying the cross, "Our Father, protect the soul of Father Ija, we pray for you." Father Ija, a courageous defender of the rights of opinion and religious freedom, was brutally murdered by officials of the regime. Masses are also celebrated during strikes throughout Poland. They are both religious and patriotic gatherings. Special moments, when people come together to pray, but also to exchange ideas or get news of the situation. And the bishops call for calm and publish a communiqué calling for a return to trade union freedom and the release of all trade unionists. With the state of war, Solidarnosc went underground and created Radio Solidarnosc, the underground radio station. It is a very important link with the population, and its presence gives courage. But how to be sure that it reaches the ears of its supporters? One ingenious idea was to launch an appeal to the people of Warsaw, telling them, "If you listen to our radio, turn the lights on and off." And there followed a great moment for Radio Solidarnosc, because the whole city started to blink. The strikers launched an appeal for international support, and in 1984 the ILO, based in Geneva, got involved. In 1982, workers' representatives from France and Norway lodged complaints about Poland's failure to comply with the conventions it had signed in 1957. After 2 years, the Commission of Inquiry found that there had indeed been serious violations of the two conventions, urged Poland to fulfill its obligations and return to the situation of August 1980. But a few months later, in response to the Commission's report, the Polish government announced that it was breaking off relations with the ILO. And in Poland, even though the state of siege was lifted in July 1983, the communist regime continues to maintain authoritarian control over the country. The economic situation worsened. Political arrests and murders continued. But despite everything, the people continued to fight for their rights, and new nationwide strikes took place in 1988. This forced the government to return to the negotiating table and finally, after several months, at a round table in 1989, the Solidarnosc movement obtained legal status. In June 1989, semi-free elections were held for the first time in a Central and Eastern European country under Soviet domination. The international support, the extent of which can be seen on this map, certainly contributed to this outcome. But it was above all the unity of the Polish people and the perseverance of the Solidarnosc movement that led to the end of government oppression. It was a preamble to other great changes, such as the fall of the Berlin Wall. Solidarnosc, a community experience that you have just followed, is part of the virtual tours of the exhibition, 1980. The Solidarity Moment. You are kindly invited to other subjects and debates by visiting our website solidarity1980.com.